Yo, what the hell is up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise is the latest entry in Sam Raimi's beloved horror franchise, which takes the Necronomicon from the cabin into the city to a family living in an old decrepit apartment building. Let me take you all the way back to 2012. I had this wacky idea that I was pitching to so many people. During that time, in the years prior to that, we were getting a weird amount of horror remakes, like a lot of them, and none of them were really adding anything to the great source material, really reinventing the wheel of the franchise to merit having a remake. During this few year span, I would tell people, do you know what horror franchise actually needs a remake? Evil Dead, but don't do it the same campy kind of comedy horror aspect. Go straight horror, because you can do some really creepy things in this sandbox. Not that I had any beef with Bruce Campbell, Ash Williams, I love the guy, he is a legend, but I saw all the potential of things you could do, all the haunting ideas you could explore, if you didn't end all the dark moments with a punchy one-liner. And then I saw it, the Red Band trailer for the 2013 Evil Dead remake, and it looked glorious. It looked like everything I thought it could be. It looked messed up, it looked bloody, it looked glorious. And to make matters even better, its release date, April 5th, 2013, the day before my 22nd birthday. How does one get so lucky? Me and some buds got together, we had some beers, and then we went to the midnight showing, back when midnight showings were a thing that happened, and boy oh boy did I have a delight of a time watching that gritty ass movie. The twisted smile on my face during the conclusion, seeing the cabin on fire while it's raining blood with the chainsaw. I mean, it's still probably the most metal thing I have ever seen in a movie. I mean, I was giddy like a little schoolgirl watching it. I love that movie so much, and I was so excited to see what they did with this new interpretation of this franchise. And then after that, crickets. Yes, we've gotten Ash versus the Evil Dead since then, but that's the Ash Williams side of Evil Dead. That is different than this. That was the horror comedy side of Evil Dead, which is great in its own merit, but this is something else. And ever since 2013's remake, Evil Dead has no longer been just one thing. There's two different sides of this franchise. We've had so many fantastic times with Ash and all of his shenanigans, and I love him, and he's groovy, but I wanted to get some of that dark flavor from 2013 again. And then 10 years passed and they released the Red Band trailer for this film, and boy oh boy, the butterflies started coming back. I legit don't know if I've been as excited as I was to see this movie in quite some time. It looked just as twisted and metal as the 2013 remake, and I couldn't have been more thrilled about that. Last week was my old man rant about a movie appealing way too much to kids, and boy oh boy was I excited for that to not be an issue this week. Before I dive too deep into the nitty gritty, emphasis on the gritty, a little housekeeping note on the format of this review. I found myself while I was compiling my notes of the pros and the cons of this film that I was comparing it to the 2013 remake. And that makes sense, because for me, that is the threshold of expectation that I had going in. Whether it's fair or not, I realize that it is a really tough act to follow, but they've had 10 years to come up with something good, and that's what I was expecting. Let's start the pros off with the brutality and the violence, because this movie had plenty of the red stuff, and then some. The 2013 remake was probably the bloodiest, most brutal movie I have ever seen, and it still holds true kinda today, and this movie was a worthy successor. And it's not just the quantity of the blood, it was the execution. The prosthetics and the makeup were fantastic. It was stomach-churning stuff, but it was also the creativity to the kills. They take household items and insert them and use them in ways you had never envisioned that they could be used. I often complain about slasher movies like the Halloween franchise, especially the recent entries, about the lack of creativity of the kills, that all you see are stabs and smacking people's face off of something. That gets old to me pretty quick. That was not an issue for this film. This outside-the-box, twisted imagination, you genuinely did not know what was gonna happen to who next and in what way. It was wild. I've always regaled the 2013 remake to be among the most balanced horror movies you could ever see. It has a little bit of everything for everyone. You're looking for blood and gore? Check. You're looking for jump scares? Check. You're looking for demented, disturbing visuals that will haunt you as you go to sleep at night? Check. This film, I thought, checked all those same boxes, which is impressive. I mean, again, it is a tough act to follow. Another thing that both installments possessed was superb production design. I mean, this is a really well-helmed, good-looking film. I don't think I'm the only person that was a little leery about taking Evil Dead out of the woods, the location where Evil Dead really thrives, and putting it in the city in this old decrepit apartment building. But I'm happy to report that I stand corrected because this place was terrifying. They brought this location to life. The sketchy lighting, the use of color, the intricate set design of this apartment building that was way past its prime, the props, the shiny new teeth on the Necronomicon. I always applauded the 2013 film to not only be a really creepy, effective horror movie, but a really well put together film. And this film sets the stage just as well. It's definitely different, but given the sheer quality of it all, it's very easy to forgive. I will say, from my identification, they tapped in CGI a lot more than the 2013 film, which I always appreciate about that film. I watched all the behind the scenes on it, and I love the fact that they did almost everything practically, including actually making it rain blood at the end. This film has a lot of practical stuff, but there was a lot of stuff that I'm pretty sure was CGI as I saw it, which is a little disappointing considering the roots of this franchise, but I don't think it was bad or glaring enough to lob it in with the cons. I just thought that I should make a note of it. On the note of something to note, how about that sound design? Hot damn. I feel like it should go without saying at this point because having good sound design is a fundamental necessity to a good, successful horror film, but I do feel like I should mention it. Every footstep, every movement, every bone crack, every word spoken, whether verbalized or blasted through old record player speakers, it all just sounded so full and so amazing. Also, the score, one of the many aspects of this film that was very reverent to the original. Now, I didn't get a banger composition like The Abomination Rising from 2013. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but I will say they brought back some familiar tunes from the original movies, and that brought me way back. It was awesome. As did some nods and little Easter eggs sprinkled here and there, a few three-word combinations that were muttered that I haven't heard since the original films. I'm not going to say what they are because I don't want to ruin those, but it was just very refreshing. Also, some of the camera work brought me back. You got the obvious ones like the flying squirrel shots, as well as the reflection off of the grandfather clock shot. But then there's the ones that are a little more subtle that might go undetected, like the, what we'll call the whip pan toss shots, where you have a whip pan that lands static on a wall, a door, a bookshelf, and then you just envision Ash Williams getting tossed in from outside the frame and smashing into it and probably getting stuck underneath the bookshelf. They did it a few times in a single sequence in the 2013 remake. They did it one time here that I detected upon the single watch that I've had under my belt so far, and it's those little nuggets or these little assurances that this was made by very reverent hands. However, this does lead me right to my rather nitpicky list of cons. While it was refreshing and fun to see these nods to the previous films, I think they went a little too overboard on the bridges to the remake. Trust me when I say that I have watched that movie so many times, and I have watched it with a very keen, observant eye. They copy and pasted several aspects of the 2013 film specifically. A lot of very specific shots, the sequences, the timing, the transitions between scenes, a lot of the plot points, a lot of things just kind of mirrored exactly what that film was, to the point that it doesn't feel like a tribute. It feels more like an imitation. I mean, I get it, because again, not only did that film work, but it did something truly daring. It zigged instead of zagging, to the point that now when you hear Evil Dead getting a new installment in the franchise, whether a TV show or a movie, people ask the question, is it this or is it that? And we have not seen that since this film, and this is the first time going back to that, so how do you do that again? Maybe they thought, well, it's been 10 years since we made this film, maybe people forgot about it. Maybe we could just use those same tricks. And for some, maybe that is the case. But for me, I see what you're doing here, and I can't say I don't like it because it's worked once, so why wouldn't it work again? I guess for me, the issue was it did not feel nearly as fresh and original as the 2013 film. It felt like it was riding the coattails of a trail well already blazed step by step. This is only accentuated by the fact that I enjoyed the characters and plot of this film a lot less than the remake. Not that it was really a strength of the remake, but it worked a lot better than this one did, in my opinion. The characters and plot of the remake I thought worked a lot better. It brought a group of friends together with a common goal of helping one of their friends with a drug addiction. You get little nuggets of backstory and information about all the characters in the cabin, but none of it tries to trump the fact that they all go way back and they've all come back together right here, right now to help one of their own. And it's this issue, this central theme, that keeps them all tethered to this hellscape as it all unfolds around them. This film doesn't feel like it has any of that. It just feels like we're dropped in on a random family on any given day. You have a kid who's an aspiring DJ, another kid who's a global warming activist, the mom who I guess has a husband that dipped out on her, the sister who just shows up out of nowhere. They all have their individual things, but nothing real concrete holding them together except for the fact that they're all related. It feels random and scattered to the point that they don't even feel united before shit hits the fan. And then how it hits the fan in this film is very dependent on convenience. I'm not going to dive too deep into it because I think that it is spoiler territory, but I will say that the chain of events that bring Evil Dead from the woods to this apartment building feels a little forced. Once we get there, I had so much fun, but the setup just didn't really work for me. I mean, the 2013 film, the setup, the opening sequence, that is awesome. It's a fantastic opening sequence, and it really has narrative purpose. Whereas this film, it is cool and fun and awesome, but it doesn't really matter. Not that I was expecting this to have a great plot. I mean, it's a 90-minute film. That's the duration of disposable fun movies. But, you know, the remake was 91 minutes, and that wasn't a perfect, fantastic story by any stretch, but I at least thought that it functioned better than this one did. Also, and again, super nitpicky, I know, but the ending of this film was not nearly as climatic and epic as the remake. No spoilers here, don't worry. I mean, I did enjoy it, I will say that much, but it does not hold a candle to the final sequence of the remake. Seriously, how long has it been since you've watched that movie and that sequence? Probably too long. You should watch it again and really pay attention to all the intricacies of this 7-minute sequence. The setting, again, they actually made it rain blood. It is nighttime, and the only source of light bouncing off of all of the individual blood droplets coming down from the sky are that of a burning cabin, as well as the headlights of a Jeep. I mean, chef's kiss to that production design. It spans several locations and set pieces in that 7 minutes. You have the inside of a Jeep. You have the outside of a Jeep. You have underneath the Jeep. You have a shed. You have a muddy hole in the ground. You have a crawl space within the shed. I mean, they cover a lot of ground and they're fighting all over the damn place. And most of all, the music, the score, that orchestral octane that spans throughout that whole 7-minute sequence. It was so good when I first saw it, I immediately went home and downloaded that piece of music. It was amazing. And then, of course, the climax of the sequence, that crane shot with the cabin on fire, the chainsaw. You've already heard me gush about it before, but it is just so cool. That is a tough act to follow, and this did not come close to that. That doesn't mean it was bad. It's only a con by sheer comparison to borderline perfection. I know this all makes it sound like I did not enjoy this film. That could not be further from the truth. Again, I am getting super nitpicky here. All in all, did I enjoy this film as much as probably one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time? No, but that does not mean I did not have a super groovy time with it. When the majority of my cons are only there on a list because I'm stacking it up next to this film that I have on a pedestal, you know you still have something good going. Despite the fact that it doesn't quite stack up next to its predecessor, this is still a top-tier madhouse of a horror film. I'm going to give Evil Dead Rise a B+. But that is just me. What do you think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe. Thanks for checking in.